Welcome to the lunation situation. We are currently in between two eclipses, and that is a wild ride. I call it like a twilight zone. We're in like a vortex, and there are a lot of energies that are incoming and that are exiting. So it's like a whirlwind of energies and a lot of changes. And it is a portal between two eclipses because that's a 2-week window. We've just had an eclipse on October 14th, a solar new moon eclipse in Libra, and now we find ourselves on a very interesting lunar eclipse, which means a full moon, closing out a major cycle that closes out an 18-month storyline, but is related back to a cycle that has started 18 years ago or 19 years ago. So we're going to look at all of that. It's going to be a very in-depth video that I make for you. Now, this is an eclipse on October 28th. At 8:23 GMT, so that's in the evening in Europe. Adjust for your local time zone. And it occurs at 5 degrees of Taurus. Anything that you have in your birth chart between 0 and 5 degrees of Taurus, or even 0 to 10 degrees of Taurus, may be very well affected by this eclipse, and anything around 5 degrees of the fixed signs, 5 or even 0 to 10 degrees of the fixed signs, meaning Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, will get a little bit of a kick. And if you have earth signs, which means Virgo or Capricorn, between 0 and 10 degrees, you might get a easy exit. Because this is a lunar eclipse, and it means that some big cycle is closed out and something comes to an end, similar to a full moon, right? So a story closes, a certain direction ends. What doesn't serve you anymore is eclipsed out. And eclipses can be radical. It can be just like that. It can be shocking. And that is obviously personal, but also collective. It's a bit of a blackout energy. And something is gone, something ends, something completes. It could be serious, it could be very welcoming for you, but know that eclipses are fated events. They are cosmically orchestrated. So these are situations and occurrences that is hard for us to understand, but they serve you. It's for your highest good. So eclipses, you just ride out the energies. There's not much you can do. It's a time to surrender and to really trust whatever is occurring around eclipse times. And this portal or vortex between two eclipses is a very important time. But a good 6 weeks before an eclipse and after an eclipse is still highly relevant, and that time frame can even be longer. But because this is a full moon lunar eclipse, I don't feel it's going to linger that long. but definitely 6 weeks, it would have a grand effect. So until the beginning, first 2 weeks of December even, it will still be in effect. Well, occurring in the sign of Taurus makes us wonder, well, what could that be about? Taurus begs us the question, and it has been begging us this question, like knock, knock, knock on your door for a good 18 months, or to be correct, since November 19th of 2021. So if you have the opportunity to look back, if you have a diary, I highly recommend a moon diary. But if you're journaling and you're keeping track of whatever occurs in your life, be sure to look back around that time, because at the end of 2021, specifically November, this story started. This story that comes to an end, full close out cycle, this October 28th of 2023. So this was actually more of a 2-year story, more of an almost 24-month story. Normally eclipses stories are 18 months, but due to circumstances, we've had a very early Taurus eclipse on November 19th of 2021. That's when this all started, and whatever occurred around then, that was a lunar eclipse as well. That closed out major unserving parts of your life, really important things that needed to end. Speaking privately, in my life, it was a very important date. I felt this strongly. By the way, it occurred at 27 degrees of Taurus. It was a Medusa lunar eclipse, which is intense in its own, and maybe I'll get back to what that means. But so it has been begging this question for almost 2 years of, what is valuable to you? What do you deem worthy in your life? In a nutshell, what matters to you and what you need to build for it? How to make it a reality, that which matters to you, that which you find valuable, and to really be in touch of your needs. Very simple, practical, basic needs you have in your life. To fulfill them, first know them and fulfill them, and also what you need to feel secure and safe in your life. It's more than just the basic survival needs, even though that is what Taurus is also about. So food, shelter, Taurus rules the 5 senses. So sight, hearing, tasting, smelling, these all need to be fulfilled. And, Taurus is Venus ruled, so it's all about love as well. It's about relationships as well. The needs you have within that. The need to be touched. The need for affection. The need for passion and desire is being met as well. What makes you feel satisfied is a question you need to answer. You need to have known by now. Taurus doesn't sit idly by. It plans and it goes after it. Taurus is the sign of endurance. So it goes on until the bitter end to achieve. It's the first earth sign. So this is where you make it tangible, real, practical. It's about accomplishment. And, you know, long-term motivation to hold on. But of course, sometimes that's even detrimental. Holding on until what? Until it destroys you? So that's, of course, also an interesting fine line, because, well, it comes up with the lunar eclipse that, you know, how much do you still want to hold on? Or is this a moment to let go? And lunar eclipses are a moment to let go, are not the moment to hold on. Being so dedicated to the build, to your goals, of course, is an important thing. But eclipses are where these are changing. So what you need to build needs to change. Maybe, just to give a very practical Taurian example, maybe one wall hasn't been constructed correctly. And then the eclipse comes in and your wall is ruined. And you're like, it took me so long to build this. But what you don't know is that in 20 years' time or whatever, that wall would have just made your entire house crumble. So eclipses are these things that just come in, tear shit down, that isn't stable, especially in Taurus. While knowing that you have this Taurian skill to just build back up and build stronger and better this time. Taurus is also about finances, money, possessions, the material aspect of life. The issue with a lunar eclipse in Taurus could be that there could also be material loss of possessions, or real tangible things changing. So like stuff that you can touch, right? That's tangible. The reality of your life is changing. And I almost hear people asking for good or bad. It's always for the good, but it might look bad in the first occasion, because this eclipse being in Taurus is that we do not welcome the change. We're holding on to things, attachments, and therefore it can feel very uncomfortable and can feel like it's unwelcoming. But eventually it will lead you to a better reality. And for that, sometimes some things need to go. But there's an energetic law that if something is, you know, gone, it's replaced. So in that sense, it's always better, because apparently it had to go because it, you know, wasn't that great, even though maybe you thought it was. And then something greater can take its place. You know, it's the sort of magnetic law, the law of the vortex, that it just, whenever there is an emptiness in the universe, something takes its place. So welcome things leaving out your life, whatever it is. Do not be afraid of it. The uncomfortability can be really real, especially because Taurus likes comfort also, and likes very much the known. The known reality is better than the unknown. But, you know, it's an eclipse, so the unknown is going to make its way. And resistance is just going to create more discomfort. And it could be very much so, though, with Taurus, that there is resistance, that we all are resisting some of these changes because we'd rather have the known. And, you know, this is all private, but collective, this means that, honestly, I think almost all astrologers and economists are like, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. When? Because the economy, capital, I mean, you know, global economy, it's not doing well. The economy in America is very problematic, to say the least. And in many countries, it's, you know, near bankrupt. So what's going to happen if many countries go bankrupt? I don't know. With Pluto, you know, being direct, being a major player, by the way, in this eclipse, slowly inching to the last degrees of Capricorn and then moving into Aquarius at the beginning of 2024. You know, it's the crumbling of the systems that we know, while it's also like shouting about the new that's coming in, you know, the Aquarius, the digitalization, the artificialness that's right next around the corner. And the old is crumbling. Pluto being a major player, this being a Taurus lunar eclipse about endings, decay, completion of finances, the practical capital reality that we've known. You know, I've been saying this a lot, and I guess I've been predicting it before. And you might be like, well, you said this before, but it hasn't happened yet. But I do think there is a big economic collapse waiting in the pipelines. And I just would not be surprised that anything major around finances is going to occur around this eclipse. Around October 28th, and good 6 weeks after that is just watch out. You know, definitely something will occur, but it's up to, I don't know who or what decides, but it could be small or major, but something, some financial collapse is imminent. 5 degrees of Taurus, 5 degrees in astrology is a Leo degree. That's about leadership, artists. So is Taurus, by the way. Taurus is also very much about also artistic expression and music. You know, it's about the throat and the vocals. So some endings around celebrities or leaders or something in the entertainment industry. Even children, and also risky business that can come to a closure, an end. It's also, you know, Leo also represents luxury, the sun, gold. So collapses around those topics could also occur. When we look at the chart, it is very interesting that there are quite some conjunctions going on influencing this lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse means it's a full moon, so the moon is opposite the sun. The sun is at 5 degrees of Scorpio, and it's conjunct Jupiter. It's a 6-degree orb, but because Jupiter is not a personal planet, it's an outer planet, a gateway planet to be specific. So the orb could be bigger. I take this into consideration. So it means that whatever happens at this lunar eclipse or around that date is going to be big. It's going to be major because it's conjunct Jupiter. Even though the orb is kind of wide-ish, that might be nice because it's tempered, the bigness. Also because Jupiter is retrograde, that's also helpful. So that could also be a lot of internal endings, like certain beliefs and certain ideas you have about things might also come to an end. Jupiter is also international and different cultures, travels, even religious stuff. So something big around that could occur as well. I hope I've said it correctly, but Jupiter was near the moon, okay? Is near the moon. On the other side, we have the sun at 5 degrees of Scorpio, and the sun is conjunct Mercury. Even though it's a 5-degree orb, that's still relevant for personal planets. It's big, so it's not in our face kind of involvement, but it's gonna be there. It's gonna be noticeable still. Not impactful, but noticeable, okay? And Mercury is conjunct Mars, which is super interesting. So 10, 11 degrees of Scorpio, we find Mercury and Mars. These are brothers in mythology. So they're having a conversation together. Mercury represents our mind, our communication skills, our desire to learn. And Mars represents the physical, our goals, and how we fight for what we want in our lives. It's our passion, our lust, our body. So they're talking together and kind of influencing this eclipse, but on the side of the sun. So this is kind of about illumination, about awakening, about understanding something. In Scorpio, it's very deep, very investigative, digging up stuff that was in the undercurrent, underneath the surface. And, you might find out some secrets. You might become aware of your motivations that were very subconsciously driven. So you didn't know why you wanted it, or why you were doing it, or why you had certain behaviors or thought patterns, and realizing that it comes from this trauma, that fear, this issue that you went through, or collectively, it's digging out untold truths. So here you come to understand and find out something major that you didn't know before. it's like connecting the dots, you know, of what happened and what happens and the connection between those two. So there's an alignment between also how we think and how we want to pursue our goals. And it's just very deep, very intimate, very real. Very desirable, actually. Very, like there's an obsession to what you want and to how you think about things. And it seems that that's kind of necessary to move forward after the collapse, so to speak. Because a lunar eclipse is a collapse of some kind. And Scorpio represents transformation, rising up from the ashes of that collapse. So it seems that whatever needs to go is met with physical and mental stamina, the ability to process and understand really deep acknowledgements, acceptance about what that is. And it will help you move forward. It will help you rise and shine and pioneer forward, you know? It's very psychological. I feel it could also be a release of mental obsessions, physical desires, or even, you know, body-mind connection here, and really, you know, how they say that trauma enters the body, so it becomes a very physical, real thing. And I feel that there is understanding around this time and really easy to release some of that physical remnants of trauma, of fear, of emotions that have turned physical. And if they come up around this lunar eclipse, because that's a very emotional time, then please release them. Please use healing methods. For a Mercurian twist, I would, you know, the mental body connection, I would very highly recommend EFT. It's very easy, accessible. It brings great relief, great emotional relief, and psychological. And, you know, somatic exercises really help the physical emotional connection. So those are stuff you can look into when the emotions go very up and you don't know what to do with them. But also it could, very complex emotions can come up because it's in Scorpio. It goes really, it penetrates really to the deepest layers, to the core issues of blockages, you know. If you hear weird noises, by the way, that's my cat, so that you know. So very big stuff is coming up from the depth of the unseen parts of your personal life and collective life. And they are going to be met with some kind of collapse, some kind of ending. But you have the strength, the perseverance to go on. It's not final. It's just an end to a page of the story. It's end to a chapter of the story. I guess Saturn retrograde 0 degrees of Pisces is helping the tension of this lunar full moon Taurus eclipse. it's bringing some flow and support. Saturn retrograde means very internal energies. To me, Saturn in Pisces is very much about emotional responsibility, emotional maturity, really taking the effort to heal, to feel more secure, to look at what has been bothering you, to look at these deep patterns, even, you know, maybe lineage patterns, to look in depth on your addictions, your attachments, your self-sabotage behaviors, and to stand up in your strength, to bring emotional awareness, to really feel emotionally mature. And to me, Pisces is also very spiritual, very about the energies, the unseen energies, the mystical, magical part of life, the divine. So this is where you need to tap into your intuition, go into solitude mode, embrace silence to hear your inner voice that will always guide you. You can ask for support by the divine. Meditation or prayer, any kind of spiritual practice will really help. And it's part of this energy. Then the creme de la creme, or not at all, it's ironic. It's irony. There's a big problem in the chart, but it is a problem that has been lingering, has been announcing itself for many months, and that's the T-square of the nodes, which ultimately decide an eclipse. So this is very relevant. That Pluto is squaring the nodes. Now this has been occurring for months, as I say, many lunations. But now that the North Node is in Aries and the South Node in Libra and Pluto direct in Capricorn, these are all cardinal signs. And it means that now the T-square to Pluto is, so to speak, more in power, because they're all squaring, they're all creating discomfort, issues, confrontations, conflicts. And because Pluto is now direct, this is full force. This is enhanced by Eris being conjunct almost exactly to the North Node at 24 degrees of Aries. And I have been explaining the Aries energy for a while, and I will definitely refer to my Virgo moon video that I will link below. Highly recommend if you're into astrology and if you really want to understand this energy, because it completely explains what's going on in the collective right now. The Aries energy is an extra layer to this T-square that is very relevant. So in a nutshell, Aries can be seen as the feminine Pluto. It sometimes is categorized as an asteroid, but it's actually a dwarf planet like Pluto. It's a trans-Neptunian object, as they say. So it's really far away from us. But like Pluto, I guess it's a bit of a boomerang that no matter how far they are, they actually just, you know, the energy hits even harder when it comes to Earth. So Eris conjunct the North Node, I predicted, was going to get us into a lot of conflict, a lot of issues, pretty serious. She's known to have started the Trojan War, which is a big event that I believe tore down the whole Greek myth era. So it's pretty relevant. And it means it's really big, the issues that she can cause. But I also feel that because she's the feminine Pluto, what we haven't really seen yet, but might in the coming time, is that she also represents the feminine energy. So I'm almost for the lookout that something about a woman or feminine issues might, you know, spiral up. But she's known, well, to cause trouble. And she is known as the goddess of discord, of chaos. She likes to cause conflict in a sort of mischievous way. She really does do that. I just think that it's important to understand the intention. So it's about, just like Pluto, trying to show what's underneath. Trying through chaos, because that's the method of Aries, to show deep problematic patterns that got you into this conflict. And I call them ridiculous due to the story of how the Trojan War started. Issues with Eris can really escalate, as we've seen in the collective. And it's squaring Pluto in Capricorn. Jeez, that's we knew that the end to important systems that we've known for decades was not going to be comfortable, was going to be very, very painful. But, you know, this is just a literal astrological energetic description of that. It's going to be intense. It's going to be conflict-ridden and problematic. It's going to demand our attention. Any square does that. So taking down the system, the systems that we've known to be true, which is, you know, certain way of how the economy works, politics as we've known it, you know, businesses as we've known them, you know, how leaders operate. This is about the patriarchal system, the capitalism system. This is about, you know, how we find success to be about finances and, you know, how much you possess. You know, if you're a millionaire, you're successful. If you're a billionaire, you're even more successful. Who decided that? And what does that even mean? Is that success? Because I think Pluto is trying to show us what is success. And it's definitely showing the issues around these systems. And that's what this T-square is all about. So pretty wild, deep-seated problems and issues are going to come up. This is literally when the shit hits the fan. Real shit. stinky, stinky shit. Dark shit. Secret shit. It's all gonna come up. And it's gonna be hella uncomfortable, and you know, I say jokingly, but it's not, obviously really not nice. So the South Node Libra is about diplomacy, justice, equilibrium or lack of, cooperation and mostly lack of. So big diplomatic issues clearly are going on, but the focus is on Pluto in Capricorn, 27 degrees, which is also actually around the USA Pluto. So this is also affecting the American Pluto return that has been dancing around America's Pluto for a year and a half or something, or a good year. Seemingly, we haven't seen a lot of the issues that Pluto could bring up around America. I think, well, we will, though. We will. And it obviously is not in the headline news. You need to go a little bit into the alternative waters to understand what's really going on. Especially with, for instance, America's economy. And I heard that it's shut down, like it's closed right now, because they can't pay debt. And I don't know if they can find new debt. I'm not an economist, clearly, but something about that. Research it if you're interested. Obviously, that's going to be a problem for America, though. And since, you know, we have become an international world, when we say America, it means almost everybody, because the economy is linked to the dollar, which occurred around the 70s. So whereas Taurus is all about stability and security, clearly this lunar eclipse in Taurus is very destabilizing and creating security issues, conflicts. Now, I've done some research, and this is actually what astrology is about. Astrology really is, as the name says, logy. It's actually a science. Just like, you know, if you study political science or like psychology. What makes astrology a science is that it works statistical. So you can look back to where something similar occurred in history and to connect what kind of effects happened back then to kind of make a probability or a prediction, in other words, to what could occur now. So I'm going to dive and go back slowly but surely. So this eclipse, as I said, is the end of a storyline that started November 19 of 2021 at 27 degrees of Taurus. That was a lunar eclipse. Interesting, in these last 2 years of this Taurus eclipse storyline, we've had 4 Taurus eclipses, which is unusual. 3 of them were lunar, so full moons. Only 1 was a new moon solar eclipse. So we've been working these last 2 years on closing out major Taurian cycles. To be specific, we've had a lunar eclipse at 27 degrees of Taurus, at 59 degrees of Taurus, or 16 to round it up clearly. And now, October 28th of 2023, we have a Taurus lunar eclipse at 5 degrees. So 5 degrees, 15 degrees, and 27 degrees of Taurus have been highly affected these last 2 years. The first one at 27 degrees, November 2021, was a Medusa eclipse, as I said. And that was pretty maleficent, negative on the surface. And also that one should have, and probably has on a deep level, opened up women's issues, because Medusa is the one in myth that was raped and actually expelled for it by another woman. So it's very much about deep feminine wounds. She was outcasted and demonized, and put, a spell was put upon her by Athena. She turned everyone to stone that she looked at, right? But it was because to the other woman's eye, she seduced the person into raping her, right? Big myth, interesting to look at, especially if you're into astrology and energy and mythology and symbolism. Interesting how she was vilified for being a victim. And that's a very deep feminine wound. And I guess it was interesting that that came up. And, some of these things I think occur very deep on a psychological level. And it's not necessarily that something plays out very big. But it is something we've been playing with, knowingly or unknowingly. This has been on the background for 2 years. And as I said, Eris bringing up feminine wounds at this last lunar eclipse in Taurus for the coming 9 years at least. But it closes out that North Node Taurus cycle story for 19 years. So the second lunar eclipse of this last 2 years was November 8th of 2022 at 16 degrees of Taurus, and that is a world point, meaning it affects a large population, whatever, occurs around that time. That caused some issues in some countries, for sure. These are some of these dates that you can look back upon, because these lunar eclipses, is what we've been working with. And this final blow, October 28th, is what closes it all out. But this is what we've been dealing with date-wise. So if you are able to look back in your journals, you can find out what it was for you personally, or even collectively if you're interested, to find out what we've been dealing with. And, Taurus is an earth sign, so we've been dealing these last 2 years with financial issues, but also issues with Earth, Mother Earth. So, again, volatile earthquakes, as we've known. So this is another point where, there could be earthquake energy, so beware. If you live in an earthquake sensitive area. And interestingly also, when this storyline started at the end of 2021, that lunar Medusa eclipse was when Venus was trining Uranus in Taurus. And Venus rules the Taurus eclipses. So interestingly, at this eclipse, October 28th, she's doing the same. So that's why there's also a relationship very much with that one, the one that started it all on November 19th of 2021. So back then, she was in Capricorn, trining Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is, of course, still in Taurus because, you know, it moves slowly. And on October 28th, she's in Virgo, so she's also trining Uranus this time too. Now, normally trines are positive, so it's like a positive flow, easiness to whatever occurs. But because Uranus is a bit of a hectic, chaotic energy that can create major breakdowns and chaos, it's not necessarily a positive flow. This could, again, create financial issues, radical changes. Maybe prices of land can go up because this is a Earth sign trine with Uranus. Uranus in Taurus is also very much about like digital currency, speculative economy, you know, risky economy. So some financial ups or downs could occur, but just like an instant though, radical, sudden, unexpected dips and highs in sort of electronic economy, so more in you know, digital coins and stuff. I also have a hunch about like electricity issues and like electricity cuts, so watch that out too around this time. Be sure to have some candles, you know, candles is very Taurian. So enjoy some candlelight just to be safe and sure. So that's for the last 2 years. Now, the eclipse cycles or storylines in a certain sign occur every 19 years. So every 19 years, you have a North Node in Taurus. So 19 years from now ago, we also had the North Node in Taurus and therefore eclipses in Taurus. So when we look at 19 years ago, we find ourselves at the North Node in Taurus between 2002 and 2004. So back then, it started on November 20th of 2002. Again, a lunar eclipse at 27 degrees of Taurus, just like now. In, you know, 2 years ago, we also started with a lunar eclipse, also at the end of November, and also at 27 degrees of Taurus. So can you see the similarity? And it gets even weirder because 19 years ago, that eclipse storyline also ended, just like now, with an eclipse on October 28th, also October 28th, again on 5 degrees of Taurus. It's the same. So clearly there's a big link. October 28th of 2004 and now October 28th of 2023. There's a big correlation. Both occurring at 5 degrees of Taurus, both being a lunar eclipse. Now let's look at what happened around October 28th of 2004 to see what could happen now, because there are so many similarities. Hear me out. It's pretty intense. So 5 days before this eclipse in 2004, on October 23rd, an earthquake occurs in Japan at a magnitude of 6.6, pretty intense. And as I said, this is earthquake energy as well. So sadly, some big eruptions could occur. Now, then the eclipse happens, right? October 28th of 2004. Now, November 7th of 2004, just, like approximately 10, 11 days after the eclipse, the United States invades Iraq, and we have the Iraq conflicts. That's big, and clearly in this chart, with the North Node conjunct Eris, the T-square of the nodes to Pluto in Capricorn, is gonna have a similar story of conflict, of big issues. But mind you, Pluto was not yet in Capricorn. It was in Sagittarius. So that was about faith and cultures and the end of that. And like lies in information. You know how we were totally lied to, of like, how there were nuclear weapons in Iraq, and that was the reason for invasion, though they were never there. But now Pluto is in Capricorn, so this is different in the sense that it kind of gets complexer, because Pluto is now inching to the end of the zodiac cycle, right? So Capricorn is, a bit up. It's the 10th sign after Sagittarius, right? So the destruction, to me, it gets bigger. There's like a crescendo, like now Pluto's in Capricorn, so we're gonna tear down some systems, leaders, way of doing big, successful things, so to speak, and how that's going to change. And that's going to change the reality as we've known it, because Capricorn is the third earth sign. It's about mastering the material world. And Pluto's going to somehow tear that down, because it has been done in a way with lies, secrets, deception, abuse, misuse, and it's gonna bring that up. It's gonna make it known to us. It's gonna excavate all the dirt up, right, about these big systems. So even though there's obviously a difference between 2004 and 2023, but the similarity with the Taurian lunar eclipse and, the nodes is just likely, kind of clearly in this chart, that there's big conflict, and it actually is also on the news. So this is not prediction, this is unfortunately present. On December 26th still an influence of the eclipse. There was a huge tsunami on the Asian continent, and it killed a lot of people. So yeah, looking back at these events of 2004 around the eclipse, that is quite similar to our eclipse, is kind of worrisome, really. This is not a good, it's not a very good energy, to be very honest. I don't like to fearmonger. It's not my intention at all. But, you know, there is some form of reality to this astrology science, and I just want you to have an awareness. I believe that information, knowledge is power, and I guess this way at least you're not blindsided. It just shows us that there's a tremendous intensity to this eclipse, okay? This is not easy times. It's pretty serious. That's what I'm getting at. It's very destabilizing, very chaotic, very destructive, okay? Just so you know. And you know, astrology is about possibilities and opportunities, so maybe you can turn it around into an opportunity for you. Maybe you can take care of yourself better, prepare, make some preparations, and ride it out. Trust and surrender that even though horrible things might play out, or scary things might play out, that you keep your wits about it, that you have faith, and to always have kindness and compassion for yourself and others, and to ride it out with love. Hey, it's Venus ruled. Ultimately, it's about love. Ultimately, it's about creation. So keep that in mind. Even though you know, worrisome things might occur. So to give an extra little layer of astrology to this, back then there was also a T-square to the nodes. October 28th of 2004, the node was at 1 degrees of Taurus, the north node, and then the south node at 1 degrees of Scorpio. And it was T-squaring Saturn at 27 degrees of the Crab. So back then in 2004, the nodes were squaring Saturn, right? So that was sort of a kick in the butt to build safety and security into your life, to follow your achievements, big goals, and taking care of yourself. It's about nurturing. Of course, the problem was that it was also about homeland and security and all the issues with that, as we've known with all these conflicts, like the Iraq conflict, where I think literally they said like homeland security issues, you know. So whatever. Now, fast forward 19 years. Again, the same date, October 28th, though now 2023. Again, at 5 degrees of Taurus, there's a lunar eclipse, T-squaring the nodes. Now the nodes are in North Node Aries, South Node Libra, and Pluto is now the bad guy, right? T-squaring the nodes, whereas before Saturn was T-squaring the nodes. So this is intensified because Pluto is just, it's more maleficent than the maleficent Saturn, so to speak, in astrological terms. So when in 2004 Saturn was whipping our ass to take more responsibility, to mature up and be more focused with our goals and all that, it was kind of children's play to what's occurring now. Because now Pluto is involved, and that's a biggie. That, listen, when Pluto was discovered, the atomic bomb was discovered. You make the link. It's bigger, it's badder. It's super intense. It's super problematic. It really is. But for the people who are very much into astrology, maybe you already made the link. Back then, in 2024, the T-square to Saturn occurred at 27 degrees of the crab. This T-square, 2023, is also 27 degrees on the opposite side of where Saturn was in Capricorn. That's wild. Okay? I am not an evolutionary astrologer, but I understand it. And to me, this is evolutionary astrology. So back then, the issue was at the same degree, but in the sign of the crab and Saturnian of nature. Now, same degree, 27 degrees, though now in Capricorn, opposite side, majorly intensified by Pluto. Opposite. So this is like, we have evolved into a bigger problem. I guess the universe or the cosmic whatever is saying, you did bad these last 19 years. Like, something did not go right, and now you have Pluto facing off with the same energies. Pluto is going to destroy everything that happened around that date of 2004, and it's going to bring to light all the issues, the lies around it. And whatever pathway we rolled into since then, it's going to be shown for those who dare to look into the dark. But Pluto, in that sense, is going to make it easy. It's going to bring it to light. So it's not that you have to really, it did the work for you in that sense. It's going to bring this shit up. But because I'm not an evolutionary astrologer, I'm not exactly sure. It's very karmic. I know that Saturn is super much about karma, and so is Pluto, especially in evolutionary astrology. So this is a big karmic journey, and we have now evolved into the last and final chapter of the soul, because now it's a T-square to Pluto, and Pluto represents the ultimate evolvement of the soul. And whereas Saturn in 2004 kind of gave us the chance, the opportunity to do better, I feel that we failed. And Pluto is now going to show the failure, is going to show the real reasons, the issues of all that we were not able of looking at for these last 19 years. It's going to be a major wake-up call. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's serious, it's intense, it's big, and it's destructive. Is there anything positive? Well, I guess we don't have to deal with this energy after this eclipse for the coming 19 years. I hope that was positive. Yeah, this is a no joke eclipse. This is a no joke eclipse, and I hope this is not where all that, World War talk is about. Let's not feed into that energy, because I think the hope, the positive, is that it is Venus ruled and that it is trining Uranus in Taurus. That's positive. So we need to awaken to the purity that we are, to the magic of our bodies, and the wonderful intuitive power that our bodies have. Connecting strongly to your body, and therefore the wellness of your body, is going to make way to divine connection. And the self-compassion and kindness that we give to ourselves is going to be the only way out. So it's love. It's love for the body, it's love for nature. That might free us, that might awaken us to truth. It seems that maybe we will embark on a new form of reality. And that this is the moment of breakdowns, and that this trine to Taurus, Uranus, Taurus, and Venus is going to be the breakthrough. Valuing the simple life, valuing all that's worthy to you, what matters to you, and keep it close. Keep that close. Value yourself, your body, and keep building the life of your dreams. Keep creating and keep loving. Stubbornly love. So Taurian. Stubbornly love. 5 degrees of Taurus is a Leo degree. Leo is about the heart and love. Courageously, dramatically, with full conviction. Bring it into Taurus. It's also about love, relationships, pleasure. Love is the only way out, really. I hope you understand that. I hope you put it into practice. First yourself, then others. And let's ride this ride out and have faith that we are divinely guided and somehow we will be okay. But you've seen the video and you know the risks. So take care of yourself, take care of others, and hopefully I'll see you on the other side after this eclipse season. Bye. Much love.